So much of what's wrong with our country, and I would dare say the world, but I will focus on this particular country of ours, our great republic, because I am more familiar with that and this than the rest of the world, is our profound ignorance, our profound inability to appreciate that which we don't know. Our inability to appreciate the fact that we as human beings don't have certain abilities. It's called an anosognosia. Anosognosia is the inability or refusal to know or to appreciate or to acknowledge a disability. We don't know any better. We don't know better. We don't know how bad it is, how bad we are, how little we know. It's also been called intellectual arrogance versus intellectual humility. And it comes from a study called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what it says basically is that we suffer from an illusory superiority, the ability to not understand what we don't know, or the ability to be lulled into a sense of, competence by knowing a little, or having certain heroes and meta-heroes and proto-heroes and quasi-heroes and demi-heroes and hemi-heroes and semi-heroes that we attribute knowledge to, and therefore instant expertise, or tish, as we say. There's something called the metacognitive aspect of this, the inability of low ability persons to recognize their ineptitude. And again, it goes back to the anosognosia. Now, these are fascinating terms because they describe so perfectly that which you always knew was true, but didn't really have a name for it, didn't have a working concept of it. It stems from, by the way, the Dunning-Kruger effect, comes from the fellow named MacArthur Wheeler. MacArthur Wheeler, what a great name. Not MacArthur Park. Someone left a cake out in the rain. Still trying to figure out what the hell that's about. But MacArthur Wheeler, in 1995 in the Pittsburgh area, was a rather large bank robber who was seen on film, on no mask, no nothing. And the police were surprised at how this bank robber hit a number of these banks and didn't seem to conceal himself or care about concealing himself or even act that he was aware, or didn't care that he was aware of not being concealed. And he said, I don't understand. I wore the juice. He said, what are you talking about? The juice? The juice, yes. He smeared lemon juice on his face because he had read that lemon juice was a portion of or used in invisible ink. That lemon juice was important in invisible ink, and therefore he would become invisible. So MacArthur Wheeler is, of course, the paterfamilias, the founder, the father of our country, so to speak, when it comes to anosognosia and metacognitive inability to appreciate and understand one's own incompetence. What happens is, one of the interesting aspects of this, and I've taken, by the way, copious notes so that you don't have to know this, but we assume that others have inferior knowledge. We know so little that we don't know what we don't know. This is the metacognition aspect of it, the knowledge of knowledge. The old expression is, how do you know what you know? Well, how do you know what you don't know? When you know little, part of the components of not knowing a lot is not knowing what you don't know. Now, so what happens is people assume that others have inferior knowledge, and scholars, by the way, those who are proficient in a particular understanding, have the opposite effect. They underestimate the ignorance of others and assume either their own inability to understand, or they don't assume, or they don't understand, or they don't take into account others' ignorance. They're hopefully optimistic as far as others knowing more than they do. Or they think, oh, everybody knows what I know. They have this intellectual humility versus intellectual arrogance. And the people that we're talking about, the anosognosia, ANOSOGNOSIA, the Sognosik apparently knows so little, they don't know how little they know, which is brilliant. I love this. Einstein believed that, this is wonderful, our knowledge grows as an expanding circle of light, and that the circumference of things we're in the dark about also grows. So the more you know, the more you don't know, and it's that not knowing that propels us. And one would say that if knowledge is a vehicle, then ignorance is the fuel. So when you put this all together, how does this work in real life? First, I have been saying for the longest time, but I didn't know it as brilliantly as Dunning and Kruger have done. And by the way, their studies, the names of interplaying narcissism, which has always been a theme of mine that propels this nescience and ignorance. And anyway, but I knew there was this instant expertise. And I'll give you an example in some of my personal life. As a plant-based vegan, I have read, I promise you, I have read more about the subject than certainly most non-plant-based vegans on the subject. This I can assure you. I'm not saying I'm an expert. Believe me. See, because I'm in the latter, I have intellectual humility, I believe. I know enough to be dangerous, but I certainly know more than most people who've never read anything on the subject. And when it comes to the notion of veganism and plant-based diet, I meet people who say things who not only not know what little they know, they make things up. And this is kind of a subtext that I hope Messrs. Dunning and Kruger work on, and that is the artificial assimilation and creation of knowledge. Just this artificial creation of proficiency or knowledge in something that they know nothing about. And it's beyond brilliant, beyond beautiful, beyond wonderful how this thing works. But so in my particular world, they will make things up about diets and paleo diets and whatever it is. When I talk about 9/11, research, I know as a matter of fact, I know I have read, observed, watched, studied for 16 years more on the subject of 9/11 and the actual buildings and Flight 93 in Shanksville and the Pentagon and all that kind of. I guarantee you. But yet, despite that fact, because what I've said bothers people, and because it tends to interfere with their comfort knowledge or self-described, self-imposed, self-created, self-imagined body of knowledge, they repel, they rebut, they don't want to hear it. So all of this again comes into this notion of intellectual arrogance, this notion of people don't know what they don't know. They don't know, nor do they care. This is where the arrogance comes into. That they don't know something, and they have been either a number of other factors. Maybe they've just been told they know something. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe there's some kind of a weird kind of this miscalibration of confidence that comes as a part of this metacognitive misalignment. I don't know. But this is the genesis of everything. Take, for example, manufactured Civil War history. Manufactured history in terms of what communism is, or Zionism, or radical capitalism, or who it does not matter. You pick the subject, the history of Russia. Just name the subject today. It is fueled. It is propelled. It is promulgated. It is encouraged. This repository of false information by these people, these anosognotic intellectually arrogant, and I'll go a step further, fools, rubes, simpletons, dolts, dimwits, and not even autodidacts, because they're not even taught. They're self-delusional. Again, wallowing in this incredible sense of intellectual arrogance. How I love these theories and hypotheses, because they make so much sense. Thank you for watching. Please like the video. That helps the algorithm tremendously. That's a big thing here in the world of YouTube. Also, please put your thoughts, comments, witticisms, and observations below. Please subscribe to the channel and comment as you see fit.